Yeah, welcome to our Davenant Shorts, where we talk with the professors, faculty members, staff members of Davenant Hall and their upcoming Trinity term. We've got Dr. Michael Lynch, and he's going to be talking about his course that is upcoming in the Trinity term, Reformation and the Modern World. We'll talk a little bit about this course, about himself, and about a coupon code. So listen to the end of this for a coupon code for this course and any other course for first-time students. So thanks for coming on the show, Dr. Lynch.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
So first question, tell listeners, if they don't know who you are yet, if they don't follow you on Twitter or whatever it may be, tell listeners a little bit about yourself and how you became a Davenant Hall lecturer.
Yeah, so my day job, I work as a classical educator. I work at a classical school teaching humanities and foreign languages, classical languages. I I also work for the Davenant Institute. I've been with the Davenant Institutes almost since the very beginning, teaching for them. Indeed, it was Brad Littlejohn and I sitting in a pub one day who came out with the plan of Davenant Hall. So, yeah, so I've kind of been there from the very start. Of course, I did my dissertation, now published with Oxford University Press on John Davenant.
Yep.
So, we kind of
Makes
fit.
sense. You're a professor there if you wrote your dissertation on him.
Right, exactly. So,
cool.
Yeah, right.
And then I think you also do PhD supervision with like the newly formed partnership too.
I do. I've had a couple inquiries, and each time, pretty much, I've sent them other directions.
Okay.
So I've been kind of choosy when I've gotten inquiries on what to do or on, various topics. Yeah, so I've gotten a few inquiries, but I haven't chosen anything yet to oversee. But
Cool.
yep, it's in the pipeline.
So if there's somebody listening, they're like, I've done my master's, I'm looking at a PhD. What interests Dr. Lynch that they're like, yeah, maybe this is the guy I want to be supervised under?
Yeah, I'm especially interested in early modern theology and perhaps a little bit of philosophy.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter what tradition. I'm interested in it all. I read in it all. So, but yeah, those are kind of where my interests are. I know that a lot of people want to connect some of that stuff to kind of modern concerns, and generally I don't do that sort of thing all that much. So yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. So since you've been at Davenant Hall, basically since the beginning, you've known Brad, who started Davenant Hall. What makes Davenant Hall unique? Because there's a ton of theological seminaries or educational centers or theological schools. So what makes Davenant Hall unique amidst a landscape of higher theological training?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of there's a few really unique qualities about it. I'd say the primary one is probably that all of our courses are usually a little bit more narrow focused than the sorts of courses that you often get at other schools, which are survey classes, a lot of survey classes. We don't really do a ton of survey work. We kind of assume that you have a kind of broad knowledge of the history of Christianity or systematic theology and these sorts of things.
Sure.
We're interested in more narrow questions. Another distinctive element about the Davenant Institute's courses are that we're particularly focused on primary source material.
Yep.
So when we do a history class, you're going to be reading largely primary source material on whatever that's covering, at least for my courses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a general theme for
That's what other faculty members of Davenant have been saying. That's pretty much purely primary stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I already talked about the title of this course that you got, Reformation in the Modern World, which may sound, I guess, self explanatory, but what is this course? What are you going to be covering in this course? Because it seems pretty broad. So what exactly is being covered in this course?
Yeah, so the main interest in this course, at least as I'm teaching it, so I'm taking it over. Brad used to teach this course, and I'm taking it over, And my interest is going to be similar to his own, although I think he was slightly more interested in kind of the modern effects of Reformation. But I'm most interested, and he did cover this as well. Indeed, it was a central element of his original course. Why did the Reformation happen? What were its impulses? Was it good, bad for the kind of modern world? What were the Roman Catholic defenses against it, or kind of fighting against it? So just looking at some of the questions related to why was there need for a Reformation to begin with, and so we'll be looking at a lot of primary source documents related to the Reformation itself. But I also am particularly interested in the political side of it, which is often unappreciated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually dealt with on a purely theological kind of
Sure.
side of it. So, anyways, those are the sorts of things that we'll be thinking about. I also have in mind some of the modern critiques of the Reformation that you
Huh.
see from various, basically Roman Catholic theologians. One in particular, like Brad Gregory and his Unintended Reformation, where the Reformation's pitched as being like a demystification of the
Yep.
world,
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
disenchantment of
It's
everything.
sort of Charles Taylor's thing too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You see this a lot in
Yep.
modern
Big time.
histories
Yep.
of the Reformation. I mean,
Individualize the faith versus it being ecclesiastical.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm even reading it. I'm reading this brand new book by a on the Tudors and the Tudor
Yep.
kind of history. So it covers all the Tudor kings and queens, and she does the same thing, and she's not even part of that kind of Brad Gregory
Yeah.
world, but inevitably she's like, the Reformation came and it was anti the mystical enchanted world of the
Yep.
medieval
Yep.
period and all these sort of garbage, and so we're gonna deal with some of that. So
Cool. Yeah. So if a student's interest is piqued, he's like, yeah, I want to take this course with Dr. Lynch. But as any good nerdy reformed student is going to ask, what am I going to be reading in this course? You talked about primary source, so maybe tease some of the readings in it. What are you going to be engaging in this
yeah.
course?
So we read from this Reformation Theology. It's a reader of primary sources that the David Institute puts out, right? And we'll read things by, like, from the English Reformation, from Luther,
Okay.
right? All the sorts of his, like, three treatises and these sorts of things, stuff from that. Um, but we're also going to read a little bit from Althusius's Politica.
Okay.
We'll read some Brad Gregory because he's a good foil.
Hmm.
We'll also read parts of Alistair McGrath's
Oh yeah.
Christianity's Dangerous Idea,
Yep.
because he's also a good foil on some of this stuff, kind of the individualism of
Sure.
Protestantism. Uh, I have here to read from Brad's syllabus, a little bit from Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so anyways, those are the sorts of things we're going to read, to try to kind of get into some of the more modern questions, about how kind of like Reformation, economics and politics and these sorts of things. So yeah,
Hmm.
those are the sorts of things we'll read.
Awesome. Yeah. So last question. I think all professors would agree. It's you're hoping not just to inject more knowledge into your students' brains so they can walk around as little theological dictionaries spewing facts at people who don't really care. But
Uh,
what are you hoping that this course shapes students? So they're learning about Reformation history, they're learning about its interaction with modernity or how it was affected by modernity or how it affected modernity, whatever it is. So how do you hope this course shapes your students after taking it?
I suppose there are two main personal desires that my students walk away with. One, I hope I make them more committed Protestants,
Okay.
by seeing why the
Yep.
Reformation mattered. They will also see it matters and want to be more committed Protestants. Uh, I think the secondary kind of thing would be apologetical.
Okay.
I want them to be knowledgeable enough about the primary sources and the actual aims of the Reformation, such that when they get into conversations with folk who make these kind of broad claims about, it de-enchanting the world, and this is why we have McDonald's on every corner of every street, it's all Protestantism's to blame for all of this stuff.
Sure.
We have, kind of a more solid foundation on which to reject such ridiculous kind of claims and factors.
Awesome. And maybe a tertiary reason is to make them Houston Astros fans, just like your
Well,
your
they
hat.
will inevitably, once the baseball season begins, hear a little bit about that as well. Yeah,
There you go. I like it. Yeah, you got to get some baseball Reformation theology all wrapped
yeah,
up in one. There you
indeed.
go.
Indeed.
Cool. So if students are listening to this and you're interested in this, and hopefully you are, because I am, you can take Dr. Lynch's course or any course at Davenant Hall. You can become a student or an auditor. And first-time students, we were given a coupon code for Davenant Hall, and it's GGG Trinity 24. And if you use that coupon code, you get $25 off as a first-time auditor or student. So if you're a first-time auditor, I think it's $225, and so you get $25 off. So you got 10% off on the top. Or if you're full-time student, about 5% off. I think it's $395 for a full-time student, or just become a full-time student. Just take a full master's degree and move on from there. But thank you, Dr. Lynch, for talking about your course, and excited for Trinity Term coming up.
Thanks for having me, Peter.